Welcome to Sticks Tricks. I am Sticks, and today this is a how-to video on how to install heated grips on your Triumph Trident. I have a 2022 model, but the installation should be the same if you have a 2021 model. First, going over the tools you'll need. These are the general tools you'll need. Phillips head screwdriver, a 10mm socket, that's for undoing the negative side of the battery. Then we have some various Torx bits here. We have a T30, a T25, as well as a T10, and then I have a little wrench here for those. As far as what you get in the kit, this is what comes in the kit. We have the wiring harness for them, some various fasteners. These countersunk screws are for the bar ends, and then these various Torx fasteners are for the left-hand side grip to secure it, as well as these cable ties, these rubber Triumph branded cable ties to secure any loose cable when you're done with the job. So here we have the throttle tube. You can see the wiring harness in there, which we'll get into that. And then we have the passenger side, which has the button here, and this comes apart like so. So these fasteners here, those smaller Torx, the black ones actually secure these to each other once it's wrapped around the grip. And then the silver Torx here, they actually go through the grip. They actually go through the grip in these holes here before you put the plastic surrounds on to secure the left-hand side grip to the handlebar. So now let's get into how to actually put these on the motorcycle. All right, first we're going to start by removing the seat, which we just got to insert the key down here, turn the key, pull back on the seat, it comes right off. Now that we have that seat off, we see the battery here. We're just going to need that 10mm socket. I prefer to use the 10mm socket there and not the Phillips head. Those tend to strip out kind of an awkward angle as well. So we're just going to undo that and take the negative lead off the battery. So in case, any wires get pinched or while we're plugging in the heated grips, etc., no possible damage happens to the electrical system. Honestly, this is to your own discretion. Maybe you don't need to do this, but it's just a good precaution to make sure there's no issues that arise, and you are following Triumph's official instructions if you do disconnect the battery. All right, now that we cracked this loose, I'm just going to unscrew this by hand with the socket. Be careful when this gets loose enough not to lose this screw here down in the bike. I won't go too far, but it may fall into a panel above the rear wheel. Now that that's hand tight, just simply pull that out. And then this lead here is for my battery tender, so I'll just pull that over here to the side. And this is the official lead that powers the motorcycle. So we're just going to push that down in here and just tuck that away. I would even suggest, I'm going to get right now, get like a rag or a paper towel and just, stick it between there, and I'll just show you that right now. I just have a shop rag here. All I'm going to do is just, as a precaution, just stick that. See, now it's pushed that cable away, and there's no possible way for that to touch the negative lead there. Do you need to do this? Once again, maybe not. I'd just rather be cautious. All right, so now what we're gonna do is take these side panels partially off. To take them fully off, you actually have to remove the battery, which I really do not care to do because you don't need to do that. So all you need to do is take off this T30 right here. It has a nut on the other end. I loosely put that one back on. This one's already removed. And then to show you, once that's removed, don't try to pull this panel all the way off because it does still have a fastener about right here. But like I said, you can't get to unless you remove the battery. But it is just clips into the bottom of the tank plastic here. So all you're going to want to do is just give this a tug, and it will come right off the tank right there. And there's another little clip down here to give it a little more room. This is all the play you need here. So don't yank this off, because you'll break this away from the screw, which is about right here, like I said, and it's the exact same on the other side. So once you have this pulled back, you'll have just enough room. You can see the screw hole here, I already have it off. I partially disassembled the bike to make sure I knew how to do it before filming. So you'll have another T30 right here. And all of these as well, you can use like a 4mm Allen or whatever the equivalent Allen would be. I just have a Torx set I'm using, so I'm just going to be referring to it as all Torx sizes in this video. So now you'll want to undo this T30 right there. There's another T30 here that it's missing on mine, but you will want to undo that. And note as well, there's a few T30s I'll talk about around the tank covering here. This is the only one that's longer than the others. All the others are the same, so make sure you know to put the longer one back in this mounting hole. So like I said, there's one behind this cover. We come around to this cover here. My screw's still in, but you can still kind of pop this off. And then you can see in there, that's where it is on this side. And like I said, this has enough play to get in there. I just have to bolt in there. And now we need to take off this little plastic molding here around the ignition harness. This just clips on and off. Down here, kind of get your fingers under it. Mine came off kind of abruptly, but if you just give it a gentle tug up, then you can see here it just has these two clips that go into the tank covering here. We'll put that aside. And now there'll be two more T30s under that cover, right here and right here. Mine are already off. Like I said, I had the bike disassembled already. So you just want to remove this and this. And now this is the I found one of the most tricky parts is getting this plastic covering off. So you don't need to undo any of these Allen heads. Those are just for the tank sending unit, because the tank is actually metal underneath this plastic covering. So now what you'll need to do to get this off, it kind of hooks around the metal tank back here. So there's not much play back here, but in the fronts, first you'll want to pull up. You can see how it has some play. So first you'll want to pull up on the fronts here and kind of work your way up and then back. It'll pop up out of this here. You can see it already started to right here. It can be kind of tricky. You kind of have to pull and like bend this covering kind of out and around. There's some wiring looms under here. So first I got it wiggled off of the tank sending unit fuel hole, whatever you want to call it, filler cap, surround. So now it has more play. And now these sides are what you'll kind of want to bend kind of out, because there's some wiring harnesses under here. So first I'll kind of bend this one out, get that around it. It's okay, this does have a good amount of flex in it. I'm going to start pulling that up a little bit. I'm going to push this back down just a little so I can have some more play on this side now. There we go. And like I said, back here there's really no flex room. It just directly hugs the tank. Up here is where you have the flex, and it's designed to be first popped open on the front and then slid back. So now that I've got these upper halves starting to clear here, I'm kind of pulling up and then back, and this comes right off. It can be especially tricky to get it on, but just be patient with it. It's a little bit of trial and error. And yeah, that's what the tank actually looks like, and all the wiring under there. And to show you quickly, now that we have the tank covering off, like I said, I'm just too lazy to take the battery out, because you really don't need to, because you can pop these and have enough room. This is what it looks like, kind of, stripped down. And now just to show you quick, before we get to the handlebars, or this might be after the handlebars, but I guess it doesn't really matter. In real time, I haven't done the handlebars yet. I've taken this apart first, as this is what I wasn't sure how to do on this bike, because I haven't yet. So this plug right here, you can see this blanking plug. This is what you'll have to remove. This is the blanking plug for the harness for the heated grips. So just to make you aware of where that actually is and why you have to go through disassembling so much of the plastic on the bike. So I pulled this connector from there through. I don't recommend doing that. It's really a tight fit. It's going to be hard to get it back there. I just did that so I can show you. This blanking plug can be a real pain to remove. You can't really see this when it's in this little area because it's on the back side. But this is the little tab, and you can see a little locking tab right there. So you'll pretty much, they'll just push this down and in, and then pull this blanking plug out. I also pulled this out because I'm just going to use a flathead screwdriver and just poke it right in there and push it out, because these can be really stubborn. They're designed that way, so I mean no moisture can get into this connector and start corroding it before you're even going to use it. So I just wanted to make a point that that is how this blanking plug comes out. You can see this is the clip that goes into the hole right there. So yeah, like I said, these can be a real pain, but that is what it looks like, and you have to push down on that tab and then pull this out. Now on to moving the grips. This is the left side grip. You're gonna need your T25 to remove this bar end. So crack that in there, loosen that. And then after that is removed, you'll wanna peel the rubber back here, and then there'll be a T20. See there? There'll be a T20 on the top and the bottom side. So top right there, and there'll be one directly on the bottom side of this as well, that you'll have to pull the rubber back, and that secures this grip to the handlebar. All right, now once you have those two fasteners fully out, you can see the grip just slides off. And then just to show you quick, you can see the weight here in the bar end. So that's what your bar end screws into. It's a little weight to help with the vibration on the highway. Get the camera to focus here. The end of the handlebar, you can see, has a hole in it, and then it has this little like slit right here. So this is where the wiring harness is going to come out, and then when you slide the grip on, it'll be in this little notch and then go in. So there's no pinched wiring, and so the grip, slides on cleanly. And now the throttle grip. This one's a tad more complicated. You just have that bar end there. You'll remove this bolt here. And now on the throttle tube assembly, there's two Phillips head screws here. So there's one right here, and then there's one on the other side right there. So you'll want to undo these two, having special care not to strip them. And then this top cap will come off, which keeps this throttle tube from sliding off. So once this top cap is off, I'll show you. But this will slide right out because it has the ride-by-wire, I believe they call it. There's no throttle cable, it just has a sensor in there. So I will take the bar end off, get this cap off, and then show you what goes on next. All right, now that I've got those two Phillips screws out and then the bar end off, this whole thing will be very loose. But see, this top cap slides off here. It's a nice solid, I believe that's aluminum. So just to show you here, this just slides right out. These grooves line up here, you can see. And then it just pushes in, and then you have your throttle action here, which it's turning the whole housing. But you can see that it rotates that plastic sleeve inside of there, which has the sensory in it. So that's how easy this is to just click in, and then you put the top cap back on. So now per the Triumph manual, we have that wiring harness here. So we're gonna feed it up on the right-hand side of the bike up through here. We're gonna follow this clutch cable here, and it'll come out where the clutch cable comes out in that little opening. You can see right there. And where that will take us is the opening on the underside of the bars, which isn't too much light in there. Let me get a light. All right, now with some light, you can see that hole right there underneath the center of the bars. That's where you'll feed the harness in. It can be a little bit of a pain. You just kind of do one connector at a time, and you kind of start it in the direction of where the connectors need to go. And now seeing this harness here, you can see one connector has, this thing will focus. One connector has 3 pins, one has 2. So the one with the 3 pins goes towards your left hand, which is, the right side of the bike if you're looking at it how I am from the front. So pretty much simple terms, the one with the 3 pins on it, this will go to your grip that has the button on it to turn them on and off and select the intensity. That's why it has the 3rd pin there for the signal wire. And then the 2 pinner here, that'll go to the throttle side of the bike to that grip. All right, I just got the harness here fed through where the clutch cable opening is underneath the instrument cluster. A little note here, because they don't just push up through there. There isn't enough room. It'll make sense once you start trying it. This clutch cable, if this will focus here, this clutch cable from the bottom, you have to get your hand kind of under the bottom here and then push the clutch cable over. So you can kind of push the clutch cable over from the underneath by hand. And then once you do that, while you're feeding these connectors through, then these connectors will push up through and fit through there. So at first it may seem like they won't fit, but you just have to, like I said, get your hand under the instrument cluster and push and flex that clutch cable. It is very stiff, but push and flex it over so then these connectors will fit through, and obviously do these one at a time as well. So like I said, now the one with 3 pins will go to the left-hand side with the switch on it, and then the one with 2 pins will go on the throttle grip side. So pretty much one at a time, you're just going to want to feed them into the bar. You kind of get it started and push it the way, the direction it's supposed to go. So like I said, the 3 pin, I'll kind of feed it in this way and then push the harness in to get it to go on that side of the bars, and then vice versa with the throttle side. All right, I just got the harness fed up through the hole in the bottom of the bars there. So as you can see, then it comes out of the throttle side and the left-hand side here, non-throttle side. I did have to use a little bit of lubrication to get it to slide up in there freely. It was very tricky to do the second cable. First did the 3 prong connector since it was wider, and then did the throttle tube connector last. I kind of had to like flatten this, this rubber sheathing. I kind of had to flatten the other one that was already run, the first one that I ran. I had to flatten that and then really keep this one flat with a little bit of like silicone spray, like lubrication, and feed it up in there carefully. And I loosened the stem bolts here and rotated the bars back so this hole kind of flipped up to make it easier. So now I'm going to put the bars back up normally and then start the grip installation. All right, first we have the non-throttle grip here that has the button in it. So pretty much you're going to want to make sure the button is towards you when you align it. So then these top bolts will screw right into the bar to secure it. So pretty much going to connect this connector to there. And then you can see here where the wiring comes out. That's directly going to align with this slit here in the bars that you can see. So see that rectangular slit right there? Make sure that those wires slot directly into there so they're not crimped or anything. And then you'll also kind of feed and pull the harness back through the bars a little bit as you feed this in. Once you plug that in, same thing. As you feed this onto the bars, you're going to have to pull, some slack out of the bars. And just kind of, pull it as you push the grip on. And same thing, these, the wires here, you want to make sure that they go through this channel here. And then end up, in that opening. And then make sure to check the throttle grip. Make sure it's nice and smooth, has all free play. It doesn't get stuck or anything. Make sure the wiring isn't binding up so you don't have any problems there. All right, now that I've got both grips on, the non-throttle side grip, we see we have the top and bottom mounting screws we'll have to put in. And then after we'll attach the plastic housing around here, which will have, you know, the button on it as well, the rubber button that presses the little button here on the circuit board. And same thing I talked about earlier. You can see this channel here, the wiring will slide through that channel as you're kind of pulling it out of the bars as you know, kind of push this on, and then it gets into that free zone where the wiring is in the opening. You can see the opening there in the bars where it feeds in. And then you have that free area where you can mount the grip. And you can see here I have the excess, you know, pulled out of the bars. And then, you know, I'll pull this down through to tidy that up. And then on the throttle side, same deal. I put this cap back on, which the bars are tilted down right now, as you can see. But same deal on the throttle side. The wiring pulls through this channel when you're sliding the grip on and pulling the slack out of the bars. And then it gets into the free area, which is the big, you know, cutout in the bottom of the bars. So the wiring has room to move when you twist the throttle. Definitely make sure throttle is smooth, returns freely. Make sure the wiring is lined up properly in that opening. And then, you know, you just put this top cap back on and put those Phillips head screws back in and tighten those down. All right, now we have these installed. They look a little greasy. My hands are a little greasy while doing this, so I will clean them up after. You can see the throttle is free, no wiring snug ups. I put the bar end finishers, Trident calls them, put the bar ends back on with the new bolts for the end, and you can see now that the cap is on, has the button for the heated grips. So now the wiring. So I have, you know, the slack pulled in. So it comes out of the bars down, and then the manual calls for feeding this harness here, which plugs in to this plug right here, which is kind of dark in there. It calls for this to be fed into here, and then just out right here, and then plugged in, and then with the wiring, kind of using those rubber ties it comes with, just the wiring kind of tied up so it can be tucked in behind here where the tank plastic goes. All right, as far as my wire routing, I used the little rubber ties here that it comes with. I secured the harness to this cabling here, and then the harness to the clutch cable over here. Just, you know, clean install, and then it feeds into the frame here, comes out and plugs into the connector right here. This is exactly how it's supposed to look. I'm just kind of turned right there. Make sure the leads going into the connector are straight so it doesn't kink and start to loosen up the pins in there. So just like that, that's what it's supposed to look like in the per Triumph in their instruction manual. And then make sure to just turn the bars left and right, you know, back and forth. Right now they're turned left. Make sure to turn them back and forth. Just make sure none of this wiring's tugging on each other. Nothing's like, you know, running out of play or travel. You know, just make sure you don't have any wiring routing issues. Make sure it's all clean and operating freely as designed. So now that I have this plugged in, what I am going to do is just reconnect the battery, turn the ignition on, and make sure they work before I button up the rest of the bike. All right, now that I have the grips plugged in and the wiring finished and the handlebars back together, I reconnected my battery here. Now I'm just going to insert the key, turn the ignition on, cycle my menus here just to the gear indicator, and I'm going to turn on the heated grips. So I just pressed the button. You can see they're on red for the most hot. I hit them again, they're on orange for medium. Hit them again, they're on yellow for the lightest cooling. And then back on gray for off. So you have, you know, the hottest setting, second hottest, the coolest setting, I say coolest, but it's just the least warm. And then, turned back off. And that's how they work. It's pretty sweet. No programming or coded needed. Sorry, you just plug them in. Every time the bike starts up per Triumph, the bike does its own self check. Kind of like a Canvas system. Like I drive a Volkswagen. Pretty much every wire that runs along the bike, it self checks every time you turn the bike on or the car on. So it has the programming in it already. It's just looking for that signal. And now when you plug these in, it has that signal and no programming required. You can turn on heated grips. And my bike says it needs service, and that's because it does soon. I have around 500 miles on it, and its first service is due at around 600 miles, which I'll be bringing it in for that. So as far as reassembling the rest of the bike, I'm not going to be showing that. It's really just the reverse process. I showed kind of reassembling the handlebars because it is crucial to get the wiring right with the throttle cable and just not having any crimped wires or any issues with that. But as far as the plastic on the tank, the seat and everything, it's really just reverse order. It's really hard to get it wrong. So with that, I do just want to say, make sure you tighten your stem bolts after you realign the handlebars. Make sure not to forget that, because that is a very dangerous thing if you try to go out for a ride and your handlebars are loose after this job because you're excited to use your heated grips. And I appreciate your time in watching this video. I hope it was helpful. I was kind of figuring it out a lot as I did it, and it probably shows that in the quality of this video, but I still hope it helped you. Thank you.